All right, so as far as throwing goes, setup. Close to the wheel, far away from the wheel. Close as you can get. If you're really, really tall, as a few of you are, you may need a little more room. But most of us, okay, I'm 5'9". Okay, I need to be right up against the wheel. Okay, elbows, get those locked in either here or on your ribs. The idea is you don't want the loose arms moving around. And then my wheel is on, it's ready to go. And then I just usually take a little bit of water in my fingers just to find the middle and just add a little bit of moisture to the middle. And when I put the clay on there, when I put my clay on, if it's off-centered, when I put it on here and I'm throwing, let me stick it on there better. It's like it's moving me all around. The closer you get that clay to the center when you start, it makes everything else so much easier. I mean, really spend some time finding the middle, get that clay into the middle. The more of a perfect ball that it's in before you start helps too, okay? Of course, you can't get every single scenario perfect, but the more you get to that point, the better. Okay, so I've got my clay on there. I know a lot of you have a problem with the clay sliding around on your piece. You get too much water on there. Just make sure there's not too much water when you start, and I usually will hit it on there pretty good and then get it to the center. Okay, so now as far as throwing goes, I want you to think about elbows got to be attached, you're close to the wheel, but there's two things when you're throwing I want you to concentrate on to start with. You got to get your clay stuck to the wheel and centered. So you're pushing down and towards the wall. So visualize the walls in front of me as it'll be for you guys there. I'm pushing down and towards the wall, but not with my arms, with what? My whole body. Okay, let your body do it. It takes a lot of pressure. And I know when you look at someone throwing, it's like, it doesn't look like it's that, but I'm really forcing it a lot. Okay, so everything's wet. By the way, too, I see a lot of people doing this, just dumping tons of water in there. That just goes into the splash pan. It makes things messy. Really, honestly, you need water, but too much water is not good. Okay, so usually what I'll do is I'll just to start with wet my hands, wet my clay, make sure it's all wet. Everything's always got to be slippery though. So I get my wheel going to the speed that I want, and I will take, even at this point, I'm throwing a lot of years, I still take my foot off the pedal. Most people that throw a lot don't, but beginning, I really recommend you take your foot off the pedal and keep that speed. If you want to slow it down, get the speed you want, get it adjusted, and then take your foot off of there again. Okay, so elbows locked, pushing down and towards the wall. Okay, pushing down helps it get attached to the wheel, towards the wall helps center it. Okay, so now that it's centered, for the most part, it's stuck to the wheel, I'm going to cone it up, and that's going to really get it fully centered. So coning up, same thing, except for I'm not pushing down this time. This time I'm squeezing my hands together so that it causes the clay to have to come up. I'm still pushing towards the wall, but I'm squeezing at the same time. Okay, and then coning it down. This is where I see a lot of people, the clay gets wobbly again. And the reason is, when you're pushing down, if you don't have a lot of pressure on the side, when you push down, the clay goes wherever it wants and it gets all wobbly. And you can see that. So the trick is, let me cone it back up. When you push down, you have to have enough pressure on the side, and watch the clay. It's actually physically going to move a little bit. That'll keep it from getting all wobbly. And I don't let that pressure off of the side as I'm pushing down. All right, let me cone it up again. And you notice I'm just using enough water just to keep everything slippery. Okay, so it's centered. Another thing to remember is when you let go of the clay, always let go of it how? Very slowly. If you let go quickly, it remembers where it was and it gets off center. If you let go slowly, it goes right to the center before you let go. All right, so pressure on the side, pushing down. And you notice my elbow's locked there. This one's up higher, so I've got it locked on my rib. And then push it down. And whether I'm throwing a bowl or a cylinder, I'm always going for that hockey puck, cupcake, bundt cake, whatever you want to call it, shape. Okay? So we've got it stuck to the wheel and centered. We coned it up, we coned it down, now it's ready to open up. Okay, so for opening, I taught you guys 2 thumbs, push down and apart. I'd like you to try a different way now so you have 2 methods to kind of pull from. And this one is where you use your strong hand, whatever it is, your right or left, and you're going to push down in the middle, but elbows on there. My other hand, my weak hand, is supporting my strong hand. So it's making everything more stable. I'm locked in here, I'm locked in on my ribs, and then the other hand supporting, and you push down in the middle to the depth that you want. How do you check the depth if you're not sure about the depth? You stick a needle tool in there when it's not spinning, right? Slide your thumb to the bottom, look at how deep it is, okay? And then that hole will fill up. Okay, so I've got it open, but I need to finish opening it up. Now for a cylinder, you pull straight out, Either way you pull straight out. For a bowl, you want to get a bowl shape on the inside, so it's already down in the middle right here. Rather than pulling straight out, you're going to pull out and up. Create that bowl shape. So with my finger, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm already down, so I'm going to just pull across and up. So I got my finger in there, and I'm going to pull out and up. So I'm creating a nice little bowl shape inside my piece. Okay. All right, next step. So we've got it opened. Well, we got it centered. We got it open. The next step is the pulling. This is when I slow my wheel down. And for a bowl, I slow it down a lot more than I do for well, actually it's about the same as a cylinder. So remember, as it's spinning, that's like a merry-go-round. And if you've ever been on those merry-go-rounds in the play yard where you guys push each other, you want to fly off of it, right? Because that centrifugal force is always pushing out. So the slower speed will help. Keep in mind, I shouldn't move my hands more than like one level every rotation, so it gets a full rotation before my hands go up a little bit. So the slower it is, the slower my hands move. This speed is kind of a medium slow. I'll have to slow it down more in a minute, but let me get it going. So I like throwing with a sponge. You guys at this point should know that. And you know, the idea is both fingers are coming together, hands locked up as like one unit. So inside hand, outside hand. And I'm working right here at 3 o'clock on the wheel. If you're working from the opposite direction, you're working over here at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to squeeze and pull up, and I'm trying to mimic that bowl shape again. So I'm pulling out and up as I go. Now, at this point, usually it'll take you 3 or 4 pulls to get there. I like to get rid of that extra clay at the bottom. We call that a skirt, which is helping it stay attached well. But to get rid of it, and I'll show you at this angle, then I'll change angles so you can see, I'm going to keep my speed about the same, but I'm going to cut down into the clay like this. So elbow there, elbow here. Just like when I'm opening, I'm supporting my hand for stability, and I'm cutting down into the clay with the stick tool. Now, I would like you to practice this. This is something that you kind of need to get used to doing. So when you throw, get used to trying to cut that skirt off. So I'm going to change angles. Just visualize if I was back there, I'm supporting, and I'm just driving the stick tool straight down into the piece so it gets to the bottom of the bat. And then you take the sponge and the stick tool and just drip some water down into that groove so it makes it easier to come out without sticking. And then I'll go this angle here, and the next one I'll do from that angle. You're going to just take that and pull that off of there as it's spinning around. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you stop your wheel, you get it down in there, and you pull it off that way. I'll show that one too before we stop. Okay, so I've got the extra skirt off of there. I'm going to continue pulling. So the better you get at the wheel, the less pulls you want to make. But when you're learning, well, I'll pull this probably 3 or 4 times. You'll pull 5, 10, 15, 20 times, and that's okay when you're learning. I did exactly the same thing, but as you progress, you will find that you need to pull less and less and less because you put more pressure because you learn where you can and where you can't. Sorry, it was a little wobble there. Okay, so I'm going to do one more pull here. So I'm really just trying to use my feel for feeling how close to my fingers are to each other. And I'm going to pull out and up. Okay. Now, to finish off your piece, the rim is really important. We didn't talk much about this first semester. I want you to think about this now. I'm going to need to get something out of my pocket. Hands are a mess, but so to finish off the rim on a piece, normally we use what's called a chamois, which is a little piece of leather, and they use chamois to dry cars and things like that. But the chamois are something we lose all the time, and I never seem to be able to keep them around the classroom. So a finger from a rubber glove works great. A little piece of plastic works good. Just make sure that it doesn't end up in the gooey clay and we don't get that recycled into our clay. It will happen, and you'll be working with clay, and all of a sudden it's like, what is this? Oh, there's a sponge in my clay, or a rubber finger in my clay. Try not to let those get in there. But anyways, just take that. I get it wet. I get it kind of flat, and I want the clay to slide through it. So I don't want the edge I want it kind of at a slope so the clay will slide right through it. And what you'll notice is that it kind of smooths and rounds that edge. And at the same time, you can change the shape of the rim a little bit if you want, as far as being more inward or outward as you do this. So I'm going to try to make it go inward more. By kind of doing like this, well, it's more upward there. And I'm going to make it go out more flat so you can see how you can change the direction of it like that too, by kind of squeezing and changing that shape a little bit. Sometimes when my piece is out of center, I'll use this method to help me recenter the piece. You can see how quickly you can change that, but it makes a really nice edge to your rim, okay? So On these here, we want to trim the bottoms, and I meant to bring it back here to show you, but I didn't. But we're going to cut some clay out of the bottom when we're all done. So what happens is we're going to wire this off, we're going to save it, we're going to let it get leather hard, and then we'll trim the extra clay out of the bottom once it's leather hard. I can't show you that step at this point, but I do want to cut this one so you can see, and then the next couple of them that I'll save so that you can see how those, how we save them as well. So take the wire, don't cut straight down from the back or from the front, it doesn't matter. Pull to the center of your piece, slide the wire up, and then this is what you're going to draw in your picture as your profile.